I've been trying to do this ROM hack of Pokemon Emerald. Nothing special, of course. A billion people have already done this, but under the impression of every video I've ever seen, everybody likes to say, "Oh, ROM hacking is easy now. It's 2025. We have the decompiled files for all the GBA games and whatever." Yeah, the right, man. It is not that simple. It took me a damn minute just to compile all this crap into Polymap or yeah, Polymap. I'm sorry. Yeah, between all the stuff I've had to do, installing the Linux program and having everything connect to itself, and it's been a bunch of nonsense, right? That's all I can say. But so I have a list here. The only thing I've done, again, Polymap has allowed me to do is just change all the locations of the wild Pokemon. So if you see on the page that I have here on the right side, it says maps, events, header, connections, wild Pokemon. The map is going to be the one up here. We are in Route 110. As you can see, it says there group G Route 110. But since I set it up this way, it was just to test run everything. Again, I've been test running it as I've changed locations, from the beginning to the end. I can even show you my box, but just to give a quick little run through. I have it on mute because I've been speeding up a lot, so I don't want to mess it up. But as you can see, Magnemite is there at 4%. I think it's a good catch. I'm sure you noticed the Torchic there at the bottom. I've tried to include as many mons as I can. Obviously, the 1% chance is the more rare ones. But as you get further up into the game or you unlock more stuff, of course, those rare ones in the first routes will become more available later on in the game. Like I said, it's nothing special. I just wanted to kind of show you real quick. See, look, I've caught a ton of rock mons. I think I just caught Mareep in this stuff right now, so these gotta get moved over. So I've been kind of organizing my mons kind of based on how I catch them. You see, I caught a... No, I had Mudkip, but I had Mudkip. But I did catch Charmander. Look, I'll fix this later, but... If you could see all this stuff, I've already caught a lot of mons. And it doesn't have the national dex. I'd have to figure out PokeScript or PoriScript. I'm sorry, I keep saying other stuff, but in PoriScript I tried to install it and it pretty much messed up everything. So I kind of had to like redo all the work I did to make sure the Linux was working and all this crap. So maybe down the line I'll be able to get the script going and start learning all that stuff so that I can change like all the trainers' Pokemon and their levels and all that kind of stuff. Like if we go to Route 101, this is how I set it up. It's just a bunch of bug mons and a couple more rare mons at the bottom. Again, since there's not that many fire Pokemon in the beginning of, well, I mean not in general in Emerald, I added these two as your one rare encounter. Smeargle, of course, Eevee, and then pretty standard stuff against starting location kind of stuff. And then as you keep going, you'll see it just progresses more and more. This is where Wally catches his routes, so I left routes in there, but look, there's like Mischievous, Pichu, Togepi, it's just a wide variety versus the constant Poochyena, Zigzagoon that you would normally see. This is the route where you fight May for the first time, if it'll open. So look, there's a couple bug mons that can fly, and a bunch of bird mons. Put these two back there just so you have a bigger chance of catching Houndour before you leave the beginning section of the game. And then I put some baby mons, and then Sunkern and Execute, goddammit. And yeah, so again, they've got low encounter rates, but look, at first when I started doing it, I wasn't considering the water fishing and stuff like that. So eventually I went back, and this is the first route that you'd visit normally. So I kind of went off of the land ones, and I made the water mons. It only gives you so many options too for water mons when you're surfing. I think it's 5 options, and then fishing I think it's 12 again or something like that. But for the water mons, check it out. I put the evolutions of the land mons. Pelipper, Pidgeotto, and Swellow. So look, Pidgey, I put Hoot Hoot here, but I didn't put Noctowl. Uh, every fishing location is going to be different. It's not going to be the same thing with just Tentacool and whatever, Magikarps or whatever. So it should be a lot more interesting here. Let's keep going. Let's go back to Route 102 actually. And there's watermons and fishing here because there's a little pond in the corner. So what I did there is if you're fishing, if you're swimming on it, you run into Lotads, Marils, a Lombre high level, Swablu if you happen to be there, and there's a chance of catching Totodile. Oh look, see I messed this up. I had them set that 5, so you kind of have to raise the starters again. And so we'll save that. This is where I was talking about it gets crazy because since it's all a decompiled file, I have to use the Linux program to recompile it or just compile it, and it's just a pain in the butt. So like if I play my game now, these edits aren't going to be there. I have to recompile it. This was like the basic changes that I made. In fishing too, I tried to make every location kind of specific. See, like here it makes me want to switch these, so I think Dratini would be better as the 1% encounter, and then Clamproll is the other one. But this is me just playing with this damn system and trying to figure everything out. So I'm gonna save that just to say that I made a correction here. See, this one should be like 5.2 or like a 10 maybe. Put it at 10 because leveling up Dratini is a pain in the ass. Well, let's save. I know I can press Control S, but I just did bad habits already. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with this. Is just editing every single route, every single thing. I tried putting unknowns. Here, look, let's go down here. It was Granite Cave. So I moved Gulpin, like I was saying, from one of the other ones over here into the cave, and this is the entrance of the cave. So the first floor is where you get Flash. You can see there's a bunch of different mons in here, and based off of each level there's different mons. So if you go into the next one, there's gonna be different mons. So this is where I caught the Charmander that I have in my Pokebox. And again, there's Kangaskhan. Again, I put stronger mons based off of what level you're in. So look, that's this basement first floor. Basement second floor has more stronger mons and bigger mons. I put Onyx in here and stuff like that. I put Magnemites, just see 1% chance of a Larvitar in the third in the basement. Technically it's the third floor, but it's basement 2. It says right here basement 2. And yeah, so like this one, I tried to put unknowns in Steven's room because if you look at Steven's room by itself, it's just a lonely map. I'm sure you can see that here. Awesome. Just checking the OBS to make sure it's working right. And because you meet him here, there's hardly anything in here. You go to Wild Pokemon. I don't even remember what the hell you're supposed to find in here. Something stupid. So I originally had these 4 spaces from Diglett to Magnemite as unknowns. And I had set them to say lore, L-O-R-E, but for some reason the unknowns don't work. I wanted to make it kind of special, the fairies in here, Chimecho. Like, what the hell are you gonna use Chimecho for in any of your playthroughs? So you might as well get it early. It's kind of my thought process as well for a lot of the catches in the beginning. This is more for fun, of course. Hardly ever you're gonna use these until the end of the game. So again, I'm trying to match the craziness of being able to catch any mon, any situation, whatever. See, Jagged Path. So Jagged Path is actually the path from the top of the volcano down to the bottom. See, like, there's a lot more fire mons that I've added. I think Slugma's in a different location. So again, I've moved things around to make sure it works kind of how I want it to work. Yeah. The last thing I'd like to say is probably the most recent thing that I did, but for Meteor Falls, which I haven't even got to in the game, I need to get figured out. But I've been trying to add things like Espeon and Umbreon, for example. Again, 1% chance that you can run into them at level 20. I put Eevee there, so Eevee's kind of a hint to tell you that, hey, there's a chance you could probably find some of its evolutions somewhere else. So like there's Zubat here. If you go over the water or over fishing, okay, look, there's no Zubats here. There might be more stronger ones later into the cave. I'm sorry. I didn't even plan on explaining any of this. I just set it up real quick and started recording. Yeah. What else? Oh yeah, as you go into the levels of the meteor falls, yeah. See, look, this was an evolution chain that I did here. So if I go back, you could see Diglett, Zubat, Clefairy, Eevee. Eevee has 3, so I replaced some of these. I took out, I think, these 2, I don't remember. But literally going into the next area gives you better options. So this entire area has all the evolutions. So if I go to the map, it's a very specific area. If you go in here, you'll be able to find all the evolutions. So like if I go back, this is the entrance to Meteor Falls. So again, you're gonna go here, 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 and then down this way. It's not until later that you're able to surf. You come in here, just go to events, go to warps. I double click here, and then that's the room that we were in. Maps, and that's where all these ones are. Same thing for fishing. Again, I tried to make it to where you're gonna run into the things that are similar in here. So look, I put Hunter above the water because there's a 1 chance in catching a Gengar. So this is if you're fishing. Again, what are the chances you're gonna use an old rod or a different kind of rod for every situation? So this pretty much makes every rod viable depending on where you're at, like what you're gonna catch and stuff like that. Like Feebas is a pain in the ass, so you might as well be in a weird place that you can use an old rod and just get it practically for free. But let's continue in here because this is what I wanted to get at. So you have a slight chance of running into some pseudos and stuff, and I kind of based it off of the granite cave that I did with Steven here, which is when you talk to Steven, you know, he has a Beldum, he has a lot of these mons. I set up the same situation over here because you can run into him at Meteor Falls, but I've never actually done this before in physical games. But same thing here, I copied this one word for word. Again, I mixed those up, but it's the same shit. These are identical. These are identical. Oh no, there's a Totodile here instead of Dratini. This is a different room. So like in here, you could catch a Totodile while surfing, 1% chance. But here is what I was getting at. I originally had, again, these 4 spaces as unknowns, but for some reason it doesn't work. So now since this is kind of a super hidden room, it's kind of like the most ridiculous room you can find. This is the setup in there, so you can walk in there and kind of like I did again with Steven's room in the Granite Cave. Instead of a bunch of rock mons, these are the more common ones now. And this is the more uncommon stuff. So you can even run into Kabutops and Armadillo or Armaldo. This is for surfing. So again, the room is kind of weird. And again, I'm hoping to get later into the game so that I can kind of test this out and stuff like that just to see how it plays. Changing levels and everything. I want to make sure it's like the bomb diggity, you know? But this is the map that I'm talking about here. So like there's literally no room here, no room here. This is where you're supposed to catch a Bagon or whatever. So I changed it up completely. Like I said, wild Pokemon. You can still catch them here, but you can catch Beldum, you can catch Dratini, Larvitar. Obviously there's like boosted mons, but again the whole point is that they're high level so that you have to kind of fight them as opposed to just catching them. But like I said, once I can make the scripts and I can edit stuff, like yeah, their catch rates are gonna be super high, like you might not even be able to catch these very easily or whatever, but that's like future stuff. For now I just want to put every mon where I feel that makes sense. So same thing, this is when you're surfing on the water, all special, all badass stuff. Again, because it's such a weird room, I figured you might as well make it badass. Like what more are you gonna spend time in here for? So here's the special one. This is what I was getting at. So when you walk in here, the Ditto is what's supposed to kind of give it away. I'm hoping not to release this where people have never seen this, you know, don't get this far into the video, I guess. Hopefully you could just play this when it comes out, or if I ever release it, whatever. But in this room, there's a chance of running into a Ditto. So if you're smart enough to go fishing in this goddamn place and have that 1% chance, we could set up a Mew encounter, which would be infinite, obviously, because it's a 1% chance. But again, this goes back to me being able to edit the scripts. And once I can edit the script, then I should be able to put like Mew as an encounter in here across the other side, or maybe make a puzzle in here to get to Mew or something, you know, like There's several locations that are like this that you can kind of do this with, but just based off of the the files that I've been looking at and going through so far, this is where I'm at. So yeah, it's been kind of fun just playing around. Again, I'm trying to figure out how to actually mod this and make my own hack, but it is not easy. Every person that's done this is like it's easy, and it's like how much experience do you have like on the computer, downloading stuff, setting up things, installing stuff? Like it just gets crazy. So I just wanted to go over some of these things. I appreciate you guys' time if you happen to swing by. But that's pretty much it. I'm not good with links and all that kind of stuff. Again, the better I get at this, you guys want to support, just leave a like, subscribe. Hopefully it makes me encourages me to just start knocking this stuff out because I've been going at it this whole weekend